So they say you shouldn't trust politicians. But what happens if you're so frustrated with the system that you turn into one? What happens if you're a business person, a South African like everybody else, and you get to the point that you've had enough and you decide to take this whole situation into your own hands, but in a fair way, and you turn into a politician? What then? It's with this in mind that I'm really, really excited today to be announcing that I have Herman Mashaba in studio. Herman, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Mark, for being back. You remember we had a very positive engagement just before the launch of our party, end of August. Now I'm talking to you as a registered political party, ready to contest the 2021 elections and actually bring change to our beautiful country, a country that's in big, big, big trouble.
Yeah, and in fact, you stole the words out of my mouth. You were here in August last year, so it's great to have you back. But at the time, you had the People's Dialogue. You were still building up to the launch of ActionSA. We didn't know that that's what it was going to be called. Some interesting and funny things that happened between there. But here you are. You sit here as a registered party. And I told quite a few people via my social channels that you were coming, and let me tell you, the interest was all over the show. People are really curious, I guess, to understand where you're at as a party and what's going on. So let's just take it back a step. From August to now, give me a brief rundown of kind of what's happened in the life of Herman Mashaba and also ActionSA.
I tell you, Mark, it's really very exciting. This job, Mark, is not the job for sissies. It's a very, very tough job. It's a very difficult decision I took 4 years ago when I decided not to be an armchair critic, because honestly I was tired of sitting with friends and on boardrooms talking about what was going wrong with our country. And I then took a decision to say, look, if not me, who? So it's really been a very punishing process and project, but at the same time, really very rewarding. Very rewarding in the sense that, Mark, for your information, ActionSA is a party formed by a mandate of 2.4 million South Africans. When I asked my family to give us the funding to start this project, I convinced them. I said, if I can get 500,000 South Africans giving us a mandate, it will be a nice size. And to be honest with you, I never expected that we'll get close to 5 times the number. 2.4 million submissions. Of the 2.4 million submissions, 126,000 of them gave us 10 to 12 page long submissions on the turnaround strategies of Eskom, SABC, SA Airways, and the country's economy as such. So the name itself actually came from this 2.4 million South Africans, because they engaged us. And interestingly, how the name came about. When I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, people used to call me Papa Action. So when we send a message out to people to say, what do you think the name of this party should be? Obviously, some people say, why don't you continue with the People's Dialogue? But we said, no, but we'll continue dialoguing. Yeah. But majority said, you know what? You were an action mayor. Why don't we call this political party of us a party of action? Because we know we will entrust you that once you're in power, there will be action for this country. So just to give you a sense, if you look at our core values of what we stand for non-racialism. Mark, please, if you're looking for a racial party, please go somewhere else. Keep your vote. We are a party committed, not by words, by deed, to a non-racial South Africa, non-negotiable. We are a party committed to free market economy, where we can give the business sector, particularly SMMEs, an opportunity to really grow and run our economy without the interference of COSATU and the unions. We respect the unions to protect vulnerable people. But I want to make it clear to South Africans that us as ActionSA, No union will have a veto over economic policy, and we are unapologetic that our economy is going to be run by the private sector than us. Us as government, we're going to be the facilitator. We are committed to social justice. We cannot live in a society that is known all over the world. Before apartheid, now under apartheid, even worse, to be the most unequal society in the world. I don't want to live in an environment like that. We're committed to the rule of law. Look at the level of corruption. People are calling for open borders that the South Africans, people of the world must come to the only country in the world where people are saying people must come into South Africa without documents. What nonsense is this? We believe in the rule of law. We believe in ethical leadership. My colleagues, the highest decision-making body of our organization is called the Senate. Everyone who serves with me, we know we're committed to public service. Not committed to ourselves, we are committed to ethical leadership. We are committed to education revolution because we believe the only way we can change this country and make it a prosperous country, we need, without any doubt, education revolution. We have witnessed how SADC, part of COSATU, have destroyed this education. We are immediately going to bring back inspectors. Cadre deployment is going to be a thing of the past. Just some of the policy formulation, but one that's also very important, more especially, Mark, for the 18.3 million South Africans who did not vote the last time around. Because people are saying they're not voting because they don't believe in politicians. What we are saying is, please don't fail yourself, don't fail future generations. Hold politicians accountable by coming out to vote. So what we are doing is that anyone who's going to be a public representative of ActionSA, we are going to run what is called primaries in the United States. So for you to be the mayor, to be the president, to be a ward councillor, you'll see before we submit the names of our ward councillors to the IEC, every community in every ward will decide who becomes their ward councillor. Obviously, we've already committed to contest the 3 metros in Gauteng, that is Johannesburg, Tshwane, and Ekurhuleni. We are doing studies on Ekurhuleni and in Cape Town. One thing I really want South Africans to bear with us, there's just no way that we can contest all 278 municipalities in this year. It's totally impossible, humanly impossible, with all the best intentions. But at the same time, we are asking South Africans, please bear with us. Let us be strategic. We have to unseat the ANC. Let's unseat them from the metros. And then we will use this as a precursor for 2024, where we will then contest nationally. So, and for you to be a member of parliament of ActionSA, you are going to be elected by the constituency you represent, not someone with smaller things in the skeleton.
I mean, this all resonates with me deeply, and I've been following your story closely and the story of ActionSA. I want to break down into a few things, so let's have a few shorter discussions on a few ends. One, the name ActionSA is fascinating for me because it's a double-edged sword in a way, right? Words are powerful, and it puts you on the spot for someone who either acts on the word action or doesn't. And so people will very quickly find out if you guys are or aren't. I think it's a bold move, but one of the things that I've really enjoyed about your campaign so far is you have been particularly clear to me, more clear than anything. Here's what we stand for, here's what we will tolerate, here's what we're not for. There's a lot of, I think politicians love to butter up everyone. So I think what you've done well is, and I've been looking at your website for the last few days again in anticipation of you being here. It's very clear to me where you're at. So what I did was, before you came here, I kind of told my different social channels that you were coming, and I wanted to glean from them, is there a question that they might have that would be of value? And there were a lot of bizarre ones, to be honest with you. I don't know what some of these guys are smoking.
It's expected.
But some of them were really, really valid. So you mentioned the 3 metros. Would you just repeat them for me again?
Johannesburg, Tshwane, and Ekurhuleni.
Okay, so a question that I thought was quite interesting that got put out is, if you are pro-ActionSA, but you are voting in a space where ActionSA is not in that, what should people do?
Yeah, no, it's a very difficult situation, but practically it is not possible. Let me give you an example why I want South Africans living in smaller municipalities to understand our difficulty. A big percentage of ANC municipalities are broke.
Yes.
And they are not in a position to generate their own capital base to be able to run independent of getting support from national government. You can imagine you win a municipality like Mfuleni that's been broke for years. It does not have money with all the best intentions in the world. That municipality can't generate money to turn it around. Let's say as ActionSA we participate, and the municipality is winnable. We can win it. But then, Mark, what do we do? People are going to expect us to turn it around. I can tell you ANC is going to immediately even cut the little money that they're putting into that municipality, they won't give it to us. And now people are going to say, but the Herman and ActionSA, you can't tell us you didn't know about this. So we are saying to them, please, our problem is not at the municipal level. Yes, at the municipal level, it's crucial because municipal level, that's where service delivery happens. Yes. But for municipalities to work, majority of them will need national support. Okay. So let's prepare ourselves for 2024 to remove ANC so that we can then push in money that they are stealing, money which is being used by cadres. Because one thing that I want to be clear, because honestly, I don't stand on the fence. I want the cadres of the ANC who are running municipalities, let them know that we are going to remove them as soon as we take over in every municipality that we're going to. We're going to remove them at national level. If you don't qualify, look, we're not going to just be brutal. We are going to do a skills audit, and if people are put into jobs because of their context, we are going to be brutal. And I want our voters to really know that, because we want to create a professional public service, a public service based on merit, not based on your connection. And all South Africans, are black, white, Indian, colors. I think for us as ActionSA, we're calling people to first, please let's accept that, Mark, I'm South African before I'm black. And the very same thing. If we can really have that kind of mentality, then you know what? We are going to create a professional public service because then all of us are going to be committed to South Africa before we can be committed to our race. Because for me, my race is something that God really created. But I'm a South African and I'm going to put South Africa first before I can think of, and I want to give everyone an opportunity.
And your reasoning is sound there, and it's not obviously to trick you. It was interesting when those questions came up. I thought that makes sense. I also think that if you do get the shot of governing one of those three major metros,
we'll govern all three of them,
and it gives people the example. It sets an example and shows people that you can indeed do what you say you're going to do. And I mean, right now for me, but I'm biased, right? I'm biased toward you, to be fair, and I'm also biased against the ANC based on their track record, and not the color of my skin either. I've been asking questions for the longest time that really no ANC supporter can give me an objective answer to without saying, yes, you're right. It's if just looking at the numbers, things are broken. That's all it is. So the major question that I got, and it was one I wanted to ask myself, is this. Beyond 2021, let's hypothetically play this scenario out. 2024 arrives, you magically manage to unseat the ANC. The question I got, which was a very interesting one and I wanted to know myself, is, now you have national government power. How do you stop the same corrupt nature or the corrupt ways from going into play? You know, once you're in power, you're obviously going to have to delegate in huge numbers, right? So how do you set up the processes, or what do you do to stop the people under your wing from not going down the same road as from a corruption perspective?
Obviously, the first thing that we do, I can assure South Africans, give us the mandate. The first thing that we'll do is to cut our the cabinet to maximum of 25. I don't need, South Africa does not need to have deputy ministers.
Yes.
So you can imagine how much will I save 15, 20 billion rands immediately that can go into service delivery. We'll cut them. We will bring back the scorpions with less political intervention, so that they must investigate all cases of corruption that has happened, so that all these people who are involved in corruption and go out and look for that money, because these people have stolen trillions, not billions. That we must bring back into this country and bring back the rule of law. We have to, I don't know if you are aware, and I've been communicating this to South Africans, I've identified a low-hanging fruit. South Africa is the only country in the world with massive infrastructure, the industrial infrastructure in the country that is vacant. The tripartite alliance of ANC, COSATU and the South African Communist Party went down to close down one factory after the other in Amanskral, Babelech industrial area, Garanku, Atkwatwa. You know, during the apartheid days, we had these industrial areas. When I grew up, people who did not work were only those who did not want to work. And these factories, by any international standards, are still new. I can take you to Babelech, which is just an hour's drive, or Garanku industrial area. That's where I started Black Like Me in 1985. Those industrial areas are still new. They were vibrant. Everybody worked. They are close to today. We want to immediately make sure that we put them on the open market. Invite entrepreneurs like yourself. Instead of operating like this, go and operate in a bigger factory. Get manufacturers so that we can rebuild South Africa like it was in the 70s and 80s. You know, South Africa was one of the most advanced industrial countries in the world. In fact, long before China developed. We need to rebuild the capacity of this. And right now, you can imagine, if you're a businessman, you're in clothing or you any manufacturing, we give you a factory, give you to you on a 50-year lease where you don't pay anything. We give you massive tax incentives. Employ our people in Amanskral. Instead of coming to Joburg, live in squalor, they can live with their own families, work in a proper environment, live in a decent environment, learn the skills, bring in international money into the country. Because the infrastructure, it is there. And it belongs to the government, and it's trillions worth of infrastructure. We're doing the study right now to ensure that come 2024, people of South Africa give us the mandate. Within the first 12 months, we've got to give these factories out to the private sector, internally and outside, to encourage people. We'll give them deals they can't refuse. You can imagine if I give you a 10,000 square meter factory. You don't have to pay anything for 10, 15, 24, whatever, depending obviously how much you're going to invest, how many people you're going to employ. I don't know if you remember when I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, taking over hijacked buildings by criminal elements.
Yes, I remember.
Offered them, raised 32 billion rents, 154 buildings given to the private sector. And right now, obviously, the city is run by a mayor who is supposed to be in jail than being in a mayor's office. What we'll do is we will continue with it, rebuild our broken cities. Here in Johannesburg, now that we're contesting Ukuruleni, Germiston, Benoni, those cities used to operate. Tshwane, go to Silverton, go into Pretoria Central City. We're going to take these buildings from the criminal syndicates, offer them to the private sector, build high-rise building, affordable accommodation for our people. So they say, South Africa is honestly, that's such low-hanging fruits. And one thing for sure is we will work with everyone, including the unions, but they will never have a veto over our economic policies.
You know, you mentioned earlier that was very interesting to me, and I see that because I've been following your social channels very closely. You've really been talking in this sense about how the ANC came into power. And I think it's worth us, even though you speak about it quite a bit, I think it's worth speaking about in this interview that the way I understand the language that you guys use is that you don't feel like the ANC got into power because of the amount of people that voted for them. It's much more about the people who didn't vote. Do you want to just share the numbers with us and maybe put that into perspective for people watching?
Well, you know what is actually quite interesting and sad, and I think it's something that we need to face as South Africans. ANC today is not in power because of the 10 million people who voted them into power. The South African voting population right now sits at just over 35 million. And you look at the 2019 national and provincial elections, we had 17.6 million people who voted, as opposed to 18.3 million people who did not vote.
Wow.
And ANC was only voted by 10 million people. So the 18.3 million people who did not vote actually voted for the ANC. And these are the people who we engaged in extensively during the People's Dialogue. They did not vote because they felt they did not have a party they believed in, and they were losing interest in politics. And people don't understand that a human being is a political animal. Whether you're directly in politics or you're a church minister or you're a businessman, you're a political animal. More especially democracy is very important. Democracy's success is dependent on people holding political office bearers into account. But obviously, it suits the ANC for people to stay away. Because I can tell you, guaranteed, if ANC gets 7 million voters come 2024, they'll be lucky. But they can still win elections. Because if we're going to let people stay away, because let's say if we only have 12 million people out of the 36 million, only 12 million voters come in and ANC gets 7 million, they can still win. Yeah. So I'm saying, and I'm calling on the 18.3 million voters, particularly the youth. You are allowing the ANC to steal your future. You are allowing the ANC to steal the future of your future generations. So please, once in 5 years, every second, obviously every 2.5 years, please. I mean, it's a small sacrifice you can make. And you are not doing it for Herman Mashaba or ActionSA. You're doing it for the love of your country. But more importantly, you're doing it for your children and their children. Because if you stay away from voting, you know what? Your children one day are going to say, you know what? My parents actually have failed me. And obviously you would have failed them.
Yeah, and I feel very strongly about it. I don't mince my words about people who don't vote. It's very frustrating. I want to try to be empathetic toward people who feel just lost and despondent. But at the same time, like, people often ask, what is it that I can do? Well, you know, once every 5 years, you get this opportunity with the
because you've got local elections and national elections. Every 2.5 years, you've got an opportunity to be somebody. Because people actually believe, they think that I'm nobody. You know, every person in this country, every vote counts. Yes. So you are a very important stakeholder. And the beauty about this 18.3 million voters, people who are not voting, these are people who will never vote for the ANC. That's the beauty about it. And ANC, I can tell you, they've got just under 10 million voters. I can tell you they'll be lucky the next time around if they're going to get 7 million.
Yeah. So this is a question I've been wanting to pose, and maybe because you're in the spotlight, you understand this better, right? I understand that when I ask this question, a lot of people look at it, it's a loaded question. I'm white, which in this country, it comes up at times. I don't really care. But I ask as just a South African. I look at this and I say, for the people who are still voting for the ANC, can you explain the thinking to me? Because I understand there's is it party loyalty? The way I look at it is like this. One of the major reasons why I'm anti the ANC right now is not on sentiment. And it's not because my parents are white and therefore I don't vote ANC. In fact, the done thing to do right now is that as Mark Sham, I should be voting for the DA because I'm white and my parents vote for the DA. And I'm not specifically hating on the DA right now, but I don't think they've done enough to get my vote. And I certainly as hell will not be someone who casts my vote for the DA just because I'm white and that's what my parents did. So in the next elections, both local and national, my vote's going to you. I think I've been pretty open about this. And it's going for a number of reasons. But why I won't vote for the ANC is just by the numbers. Unemployment's gone up in the last number. You've got corruption. If you just take in the last fiscal year from 50 billion to 60 billion.
Education is the worst outcome in the world.
Education, and suits and sneakers is primarily in education, and so this is a big frustration for me.
We're the murder capital of the world. We're the rape capital of the world. I mean,
gender-based violence is going up.
I can give you all
by all the measures.
All the measures.
By every, like we've had 13 years now, we've had load shedding. So I can list, in fact, the video that went viral when I said that we're in an abusive relationship by the ANC. I didn't get a lot of pushback for one reason, because I didn't get ugly. I just said, here's why I don't like them. Here's the numbers. And so I wonder, is it a case of the people who vote for ANC, do they not know the numbers? Do they not care? I'm just trying to understand why. Maybe you can, like, why is it that people are still defending the ANC in this matter when they are the ones who are living a much worse off life by the numbers?
Mark, I think let's really be fair to the few people who, in 2019, that's the last elections we've had.
Yes.
Let me just give you a little bit of statistics of ANC. 2009, ANC received 69% of the vote. 2014 dropped to 62%. 2019, with the Ramaphoria, with CR17 billion, dropped to 57%.
Yes.
So ANC and lost all the metros except eThekwini. Even with eThekwini seeing a big drop and also a big number of people staying away. So ANC, it's a dying party, whether I like it or not. The facts are there. ANC, it's a dying party. It's a rural party. They're relying on social grants and so forth and denying people the education to be able to see for themselves. But one thing for sure is that COVID-19, as disastrous as it's been, it has really opened. Please go to any rural area, go and talk to a Magogo or whatever. People are angry because ANC has run out of cash as of today. On last week, Friday, the president has admitted that there is no cash. This morning, I listened on one of the radio stations, the Director General of Treasury confirming that there's no money any longer in this country. So we are broke as a country. He's thinking of economic recovery. I mean, you know, the economic recovery to go and steal more. That is what they call economic recovery. Secondly, he's talking about increasing taxes. Taxes when people are losing jobs, or alternatively going to increase our borrowings. I mean, South Africa right now, as we are aware, is not credit worthy. So the only way South Africa can access money, which they want to use for wrong things, they must go to mashonisas, to loan sharks. Because South Africa can't go and raise money from the normal capital markets.
Yes.
So the only way they can go and borrow more money, they've got to go to loan sharks. So we're in big trouble. So for anybody who's going to take over in 2024 to rebuild the credibility of South Africa is going to be a huge challenge. Is it possible? I strongly believe it is, but it'll need South Africans to educate them to understand that this recovery plan, it's a 15, 20-year kind of plan. It's not something that we can really turn this ship around overnight. It's not possible.
You know, and I couldn't agree with you. And I think that really, for me, the role of but I'm a capitalist and I'm an entrepreneur. I think the role of government is to get out of the way, make the rules fair, and create the conditions that are conducive. You said something on your website which really resonated with me as a capitalist, which is that it's not our job to create jobs, but to create if I get the wording correctly, to create the conditions that make it easy for job creation and economic recovery. So that's resonated with me, which then leads me to the point of COVID-19. You know, one of the questions that came up, and I think it's a fair question, is what would your analysis be of the way the ANC handled COVID? We know about the corruptive side, so I just want to put that aside. How do you think they've handled it in terms of lockdowns? Are you in favor of current lockdowns? Like, how do you think about it versus how they've handled it?
I think if you look at some of the lockdown measures, obviously lockdown was very important.
The initial one.
Oh, initial. It was very important. But you don't just really put together a lockdown for the sake of putting a lockdown. You have a lockdown for a period so that you get your health facilities up to speed. I can tell you right now, majority of our hospital facilities are worse than before COVID-19 because the money was stolen. Right now, I don't know if you're aware, we're running a petition with doctors.
Yes, I saw.
Doctors who are unemployed. As of last night, we have over 600 doctors or medical staff who are unemployed. But this country can take over 400 million rands of our money, bringing in Cuban doctors who can't speak the language. Cuban doctors are trained on the primary health care, not to come and deal with complex issues like COVID-19 and take them into communities who cannot really speak Spanish. But I don't employ all our own local South Africans.
Back to front.
And one thing for sure, I'm unapologetic about this. South African doctors are by far better trained than the Cuban doctors. They're uncomparable because in Cuba, I mean, they don't have medication. They get basic training. Whereas here in South Africa, for you to be a doctor, you have to you go through a rigorous process. And where's the evidence? Look at how many doctors and nurses have been stolen by people all over the world? Attracted, in fact, not stolen, because they were attracted to go and work in London, Australia, Canada, and so forth, because of their training, not the Cuban doctors. Now, I'm fighting to ensure we as ActionSA are going to ensure that end of the month we're running this petition. Once we've got the numbers, we are going to ensure that we open the eyes of South Africans, force this government to employ our doctors, and if it means we've got to send the Cubans back to Cuba, let them go and take care of Cuba, we'll take care of our own country, South Africa.
I couldn't agree with you more, Herman, but again, I think we're just aligned because our thinking is similar. We're getting to the end of this only because I need to keep these interviews short enough to make them, watchable on social. Otherwise, I could sit here with you for ages. I guess I want to do two things. I want to give you kind of the floor, and maybe anything that I've missed or a message that you want to get to the people watching this. I have a feeling that a video like this by nature will go viral. Just because I've got a decent-sized audience, and South Africans are hungry. They want to know, especially with COVID, to your point, it's made people's life really difficult, and people are hungry now more than ever, I think, for change. So that's your close-up camera over there. Really, what I want to just do is leave you with a parting thought, the things that you want South Africans to know, maybe a plea, you name it. The floor and the camera is yours. What do you want people on that end to know?
Well, I would really like to make a really very special appeal. Fellow South Africans, we are in big trouble. We're in a big mess. We're in a big hole. And I can tell you the only way we can get out of this hole, only us, all of us acting as one to ensure that we get out of this hole. And it's not a difficult undertaking I'm asking you to do. Please come 2021 local government elections. Go out in numbers and go out and vote. In fact, I'm asking you, start your preparations. Go out and ensure that you are registered to vote. On the day of election, make sure that you're the first person to vote. So that whatever tricks that ANC can try and play in stealing the elections, we've got the numbers. Come 2024, let's remove ANC out of national government. Let's put in a government, whether it's going to be a government of national unity, whatever, I don't care. As long as we've taken out this criminal syndicate called ANC out of government. You and I, let us take the responsibility to make that happen. Not for us, ourselves, let's do it for future generations so that at least they can inherit a better South Africa than the one you and I live under and born under.
Herman, I really want to just say thank you so much for coming through here. And based on how this video goes, I'd love to have you back another time because these issues are complex. And you've got some serious work cut out for you to get the word out, to get the brainwash away from people, to really just get to the heart of making the country a better place. So I want to just thank you. I think that people don't appreciate that the role that you've taken on is complex. I am actually an idealist by heart, and I believe that I believe in the good of human beings, and I actually believe that most people start out for the good, and something goes amiss. And I must be honest, one of the the last time I had you here, my friends spoke to me afterwards, and they said they would give me like these weird and interesting things back, like how can you ever trust politicians? But it's fascinating to me. You're a guy who made your money before all of this crap, and you're not in your 20s and in your 30s anymore. You could quite easily sit back and enjoy your family time and do your thing. And yet here you are, in my mind, putting yourself under this strain and this pressure that really, if anybody's been even close to what you're doing, understands it's just not fun. You're doing it more out of a civic duty by anything else. You've made your money. You don't need much more, but yet here you are. And for me, there are many things about your campaign, about ActionSA that resonate, but I'm biased. But I think that the fact that you've decided to make this jump, not just for you, but for people in the future, I think it's a big deal. And I really do hope people recognize that. So I wanted to say thank you for that. From me to you guys, I really just wanted to tell you, to be point blank about this, that I asked Herman to come in because, like you, I am a patriotic South African. If you've been following my social media channels, you'll know that I write more about uplifting than about complaining and moaning. And like you, I'm searching for solutions. I want to have kids one day. I don't want to talk about South Africa in this horrible, ugly way where we put it aside. And so I'm just talking to you man to man, person to person, South African to South African. Regardless of where your political view is, you have to say that where we're at right now as a country isn't good. It wasn't great before COVID. It's certainly been amplified by COVID. And so like you, I'm just frustrated. And I think that, Herman, I think you deserve the shot. I say that as a biased person, but I really do. I look at everything that you're doing, how you're doing it, what you stand for, the language you use. It resonates with me. And everything else we've tried to do hasn't worked. So something's got to give. Be prepared to vote. Unlike Herman, who's far more friendly than I am, get your shit together and vote, because it's the one thing that you can do. And then be careful and think with your own mind about who you want to vote for. You make the decision for you. You look at the parties, you look at the people, you look at the messaging, and you look at the actions. And I don't just mean as a play on word. I mean, look at what these parties have done and are doing, and then you make your mind up. And when I do that, I get here. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming through. Best of luck for your adventures, and I'm sure I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Mark. Really appreciate it.